Hello, everyone. Welcome to Future Tech Talk, episode 44. It is a pretty gloomy day down here at the ballpark, and I don't know how long this episode is going to go on for because I'm still a little under the weather. Just can't catch many breaks these days. What can we talk about first? Man, there's a lot going on. How about this new Atlas robot from Boston Dynamics? I don't know if you've seen this thing, but it can move. It can move in some pretty unbelievable ways. Like literally, it can be like lying flat on its back and it can like rotate its hips and its legs to then press against the ground and lift itself up. Like it's so science fiction-y and unbeatable. You just have to continue to pray that this thing stays on your side because you wouldn't be able to beat it. Like, what are they creating? Why does this thing need to move like that? I'd love to know. You know, they started by saying, oh, it'll be good for warehouses, helping lift heavy things, and maybe good for construction or something. Like, why does it need to rotate its hips like that? Eventually, that thing is going to become like a police officer. And for a lot of years, maybe the joke was like, oh, okay, you just have to push the robot over and it won't be able to get back up. Now you can't do that. Now this thing can get up with a vengeance. I don't have much more to say about that other than, just wondering aloud, what are they doing? Who are they making this for? Who's driving that sort of innovation? I have a friend who does general contracting, just a handyman, so to speak. And I was talking to him yesterday about, like, how much extra work would you need to take on for it to be financially viable to hire someone new, like to hire help? And he said the answer is tricky, like, especially if the person is very skilled, you'd sort of have to increase your production by a lot in order for that one person to, for the compensation to work out between the company and the employee. Whatever. It's a hard answer. I get that. And then I was thinking, how long until he can just buy a robot? Just a business expense, invest in a robot worker. I said maybe 2 years. It's sort of hard to think of in years, but 24 months? 24 months sounded a little soon, but between 24 and 36 months, especially because we live in Canada and Toronto, I could just see it happening. You have to think what needs to happen for regular people to start purchasing these Atlas robots. Now, maybe it doesn't come from Boston Dynamics, but there's probably a good chance it does. I mean, again, who are they building these robots for? It sounds like the army might be number one. Maybe they never even tell us about the ones that they sell to the army. Okay. But then you're talking factories, like steel mills. I don't know if they still have those in America. Production lines. And then you have maybe construction sites. I don't know. That's tricky. I'm trying to think of the hierarchy of who's going to be purchasing these robots and the assembly line that needs to happen. The mass production that needs to happen for the price to go down to $15,000 or $20,000. Right now, it's probably over $100,000 for one of those robots, and that's not feasible for the average person. You can't just buy $100,000, but maybe you could finance $100,000. I don't know. Especially if you were a small business, could you finance $100,000? How quickly would that robot pay itself off in terms of just labor and saving you energy and injury and extra work? But then what about repair and maintenance? Are you going to have to learn how to take care of this robot? What if something goes wrong? Do you have to ship it to Boston? Is Boston Dynamics even located in Boston? I don't know. So in 24 months, could you see a massive production line that ships to every country? For, we'll say, $17,000, you can buy your own personal robot. But are these robots going to be specialized, or will they be completely adaptable to every situation? Are they going to come as blank slates, and maybe you have to, I don't know if you'd have to buy the Kung Fu program, the construction program, the tiling program? Are they going to be strictly demo specialists? Are they going to have to learn from you? Where are they going to get their training data from for each individual job that they might need to do? And what's the difference between a blue collar construction robot and a robot that hangs out in your kitchen and cooks you food. Like, the dexterity is going to be super similar. It's going to need to be able to handle tools. But no one's going to buy a $15,000 chef. I don't know, maybe someone would. But I feel like the cooking, vacuuming, cleaner robot is going to be like $7 or $8 grand. And will that come in 24 months, or is that like 48 months away? I don't know. What do you think? How long until you pay for a renovation and a gosh dang robot shows up with the humans, I guess? But, you know, I struggle in my mind. Like, you're projecting what the world will look like with autonomous robots, androids basically. And it's easy to picture them doing everything perfectly. But there has to be some sort of bottleneck that they can't solve. Like, is it a battery issue? Is it a supervision issue where you have a fob that controls the robot and you need to be within 20 feet of it at all times? Or it doesn't act on its own? Like, something like that that's hard to imagine is going to need to happen. You can't just have robots showing up to apartment buildings saying, I'm here to demo the bathroom. Like, that's not gonna work. Like, one, I don't think people would trust it and let it inside. It would need to be accompanied by a person. But then is that just an exposure issue? And 2 years after launch, people will just trust the robot to show up? I don't know. I wonder how cheap these robots will eventually get. Is it going to be the type of thing where even if they could make a robot for under $1,000, they'll never do that? Because you just can't have robots everywhere? Like, they need to stay at some crazy premium price to sort of inflate their value in some way. But also, when you sell your work as a human, you're not only selling your time, but you're selling the value that you provide. Now, if these robots can provide the value of a human body and supernatural processing power, like, are those things not worth $100,000? You're never going to sell them for that, but you're not going to sell something for $1,000 that's worth hundreds of thousands over the next couple of years. I don't know if that's exaggerating a little, but I really wonder how these companies are going to monetize the future technology that they provide. Magic, Android robots. And then here's another quick question for you. Do you think they're going to stay looking like robots? Or are they going to look human? Surely there's going to be a split. Okay, maybe that's one of the pricing ladders. You can get your mechanical robot, or you can pay an extra $3 grand for the latex skin and the hair. I don't know. Would you want it to look human? I was talking last week about, like, that's why humans can't win, is because robots will be the perfect mimics. Would you want a society where literally some humans don't have to be humans, that the robots will look like us? If the government wasn't so slow, I'd say there could be some legislation with that. Like, you're not allowed to make a humanoid looking robot. Maybe it can act like a human, but you can't trick other people into thinking you're human. But the humanoid robot's going to come way quicker than any government is going to be able to say, hey, don't do that. There was a cool PlayStation patent that, I guess it got revealed. I don't know how people find these things, but it was about, like, being able to generate your own items in the game. And I thought, like, that is such a cool use of generative AI, and I wonder how it would really work. To be fair, a lot of patents never come to light, but I've said this a bunch of times, like, these companies think about these things. And this is one example of that. There have been games before that really let you go crazy with your imagination. Maybe Minecraft is one of them. That's not really what I'm thinking of. There was this game called Scribblenauts where you could literally type in, like, any word and then it would appear in your game. Now, I guess the developers had to think of all these words. Like, it was a problem solving game. So if you saw a hill or a wall that you needed to climb, you could type in, like, a ladder, and then a ladder would appear and your guy could climb up the ladder. But you could also type in, like, helicopter or wings, and you could fly over the wall. It's pretty amazing to see that happen. And this game came out a long time ago, 10 years ago, maybe even a little more. Okay, fine, let me look it up. 2009, how about that? Okay. Now, there was probably some limitations to that, but 15 years later, the idea of that happening now with generative AI seems pretty plausible, that you could play a puzzle game or you could play any game and you could just generate your ideas on the fly. Would this work in terms of like, okay, you're playing a magic game, a game that has magic in it, and one of the quests is like, oh, you're discovering some ancient knowledge, but you're combining it with your new knowledge and you're creating your own health potion because you're the magical wizard and you know better than other people, so you can create your own potions. So then you come up with a name and maybe a little description, and the game generates the item for you, like a wholly your own healing potion. That could be kind of cool. I don't quite know how that technology would work in a lot of games, because a lot of the best games constrain the players. That's where creativity and fun really comes in. Let me just say that generative AI would disrupt the balance of nearly any game if you could constantly create new items for that game, whether that was like a poker hand. Like, you can't just create new things. Games are designed from a very high level, and then players are inserted into those games. To be able to create something that the developer didn't intend for, I don't know if that's really gonna work. It's a cool idea. And speaking of generative AI, Adobe recently announced, I don't know if it's a tentative partnership, I don't really know what kind of partnership it is, but it's like video generation inside of Premiere Pro with Sora. Like, I think they name dropped Sora and said that you'll be able to basically call on Sora as you're editing for B-roll or to change what's in your scene. I think that can be pretty powerful, but the demo they showed, it's obviously not how it's going to look for real. These things never translate as well as they do in the ad, but I will say I was wrong about Adobe Firefly. Still a terrible name, but their generative fill in Photoshop is magic. They figured out how to do it. It's better than you can think. It's better than you can imagine. I was wrong. Now, instead of coming up with their own video generation, they're partnering with other labs. Now, does that diminish the potential magic? Maybe. But could I, like, as I'm editing this podcast, could I put a mask around myself and then like type in an alien or something? It'll keep the audio, and then would it have an alien speaking for me? I don't know. And then a good question is like, are VFX artists going to have to learn how to edit? Or will editors become VFX artists? And like, as you're editing the movie and you want to see an explosion in the background, instead of sending that down the pipeline, what if the editor is like, oh, what, right here? And just types in a few words, and then boom, you have an explosion in the background. What's going to happen? The lines between jobs are going to blur so hard. Even in terms of like directing, is the director going to edit the movie as it goes? Are editors going to have some leeway with directing? And the crazy thing about generative AI is that you can make 3, 4, 5, 10 different generations of the effect. And I wonder, like, if you extended a clip with generative AI, will it be painfully obvious when that transition happened? Or will it be able to take, the 59 seconds of real video and then extend it 1 second and you'd have no idea? Like, how quickly does the cohesion break down? And how much direction does it need? Will it just know what you were looking for? I don't know. Maybe this episode kind of sucks, because I'm not feeling that great. It's kind of hard to think. It's kind of hard to articulate. But let's see what else I can talk about. I saw a post online. I don't know if it was advertising a bot, but it was some sort of like, hey, we're building a service where you can like pay a bot or pay for a bot that monitors all of social media at once. And it monitors for people who have a problem that you can solve. This is like a business transaction sort of thing. Like, maybe you're a plumber. We'll just use that as an example. This bot will monitor all of social media for people who need plumbing help, maybe in your area. Or if you teach something digitally, like Mid-Journey, the bot will scrape, or I guess just actively look at the internet for people who have the problem that you solve. It seems kind of too good to be true, but also seems like a nightmare. Just taking a step back and realizing that, you you are being monitored at all times, even if it's kind of a good thing, even if it's sort of helpful in the end, even if your problem might be solved by an angelic, omnipresent robot, just knowing that that robot is out there watching you, waiting for you to announce one of your problems, to then show you, I don't know if it would connect and show you the direct advertisement, or if it would just give your information to the company who can solve your problem, and then they contact you somehow. Like, I don't really know how that part of it works, but it sounds like a nightmare to me. That, or would it be whimsical and mystical, and you could just say your problem out loud, knowing that someone was listening, and then a solution gets brought to you? What do you would that bother you? Would you speak more freely? Or would you be more closed-guarded? I don't know. But you know what? Let's end it there. I tried to show up, trying to do my best. I can feel my throat hurting a bit. It's not good to talk this much. Hopefully I'll be back next week for a more robust conversation. But I wanted to thank you for joining me. As always, I hope you're doing well. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Peace.